Great. So, as I say, welcome to everyone on this very sunny afternoon. We should be actually holding this on the beach, I would think, because it's so delightful. But there we are. It's lovely and cool in the Lillian Hopkin room, I should say. I almost said the Gloucester room, the Lillian Hopkin room today, because as we know, in the winter, it can be equally cool, but it is certainly cool here today. Are there any apologies, Michelle?
Yes, apologies from Mike Day and Beth Allender.
Great. Anybody know of any other apologies? No. There we are. Thank you. As you know, it's the prohibition of whip votes. We've all been sent the minutes of the previous meetings. And are there any comments? If so, if not, could I have somebody to propose they are a true record? That's Councillor Susan Jones and Councillor Sandra Joy. Okay, great, fine, thank you. And I can't see any other hands up, so thanks for that. The next thing is the letters, and you can see a copy of the letter that I'd sent to the cabinet member, Councillor Robert Smith, for information. Then public question time. No public questions have been raised, so we move very swiftly on to item 7, which is it's on quality in education, and it's a PowerPoint presentation. And we have with us Councillor Robert Smith, the cabinet member, and Helen Morgan-Rees, the director of education, and I believe Louise Herbert Evans, the team manager for Capital, is actually going to take part as well. I don't know who's going to come in first.
If I can just briefly introduce the item, Chair. Louise, I think, will take us through the PowerPoint presentation and show the progress that's being made in delivering this program. Sustainable Communities for Learning is the latest iteration. It's had a few names, 21st Century Schools, but the key thing is that it's an investment in our school system and an investment in our school estate, jointly between ourselves and Welsh Government on different levels of intervention. And I think it is a way of responding to our needs locally. Is it being delivered fast enough? Are we able to achieve everything we want to do as quickly as we would like? Well, of course not. You know, we'd like to do everything overnight, wouldn't we? We would, but then that's true of all 22 local authorities in Wales. But I think there is important progress being made. There are important milestones being reached. And I think Louise now will be able to take us through those, and perhaps we can have a discussion at the end, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Louise, if you'd like to kick off.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Smith. So follow the same format, really, just updating on progress since we last reported to Scrutiny. So a reminder, really, it is now known as the Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, but it's been in existence for quite some time now and was known as the 21st Century Schools programme. Through Band A, we've delivered 51.5 million of investment across 9 schools. Band B, 149.49 million. Although in September of last year, we did report to Cabinet and secured approval for an increase to the local funding contribution with no MIM. Because there was a shift in the strategy from Welsh Government in terms of which projects would be suitable for MIM. That's the, for want of a better phrase, the commonly known PFI in sheep's clothing. And we then submitted a revision to our strategic outline programme to Welsh Government and had a new programme envelope for Band B approved of 176 million. And then just a reminder of the intervention rates for capital, which have now remained unchanged since just after the start of Band B. So it's 65% for mainstream schools. Obviously, MIM not applicable to us at the moment, but for additional learning needs, special schools, pupil referral units, it's 75%, and then voluntary aided, 85%. So obviously Band B, almost 3 times the size of Band A. We've delivered already 53.8 million across 5 schools, and we're making significant progress in terms of the business case development for the majority of the remainder of the projects in the programme, amounting to 97 million, which represents 91% of the total revised programme, excluding the aided sector. So the last project that we've delivered within Band B was Bishopston, which I think was around about the time of the last Scrutiny presentation. That had an approved value of 15 million, so completed at the end of the last financial year. We haven't quite reached the end of the defect period for that yet. As is always the case, the defect period can be challenging when we have sort of 2 or 3 niggles remaining that we obviously have to work closely with the contractor whilst mitigating impact on schools during that. And just to note here of the some of the community benefits that we secured through that project as well. I think we had a beach clean. There was some painting in Bishopston Primary School. There was a new hall floor in the community centre. And Barclays Bank presented to some of the Year 11 pupils. So in terms of the remaining Band B, these are the projects that are currently in progress. The progress was slowed slightly due to obviously the work that we were doing in terms of cost planning for these projects. There's been some development of the scope and requirements. Ysgol Gyfun Gymraeg Bryn Tawy, we had originally submitted a Welsh medium bid for that, which wasn't approved, but we've now managed to secure some Welsh medium funding for Bryn Tawy, which is complementing that project, which means we'll be delivering an additional 248 Welsh medium secondary places for that. We already have an approved strategic outline business case for Bryn Tawy, and that went out to tender last month. Gowerton School, this again is a fairly complex project. It's a part new build with the intention to replace substandard demountables, B block on the site, addressing condition and suitability, but also doing some work in A block. And if anybody knows that school, that's obviously the original school, very traditional school building. And at the moment, we have a consultant team looking at options in terms of how we deliver net zero carbon for that. So it's fairly complex. We're working on that. We were planning on submitting a strategic outline case to Welsh Government this summer. We are thinking maybe we'll delay that and submit a joint strategic outline case and outline business case in the early autumn, because we've done quite a lot of work for that project, and we're naturally by default moving to that sort of stage because of the technical work we've had to undertake to evaluate options. With then a view to tendering on the new contractor framework after November 2024. There will be a new South West Wales regional contractor framework, which should be in place by the 1st of November 2024. There's benefit in us now not putting these pipeline projects out to tender, because the new framework should deliver us a wider pool of contractors for bidding. So obviously we need to look in terms of how we programme the next projects to go out to tender. New build special school. We have an approved strategic outline case for that, and we also now have a determination following the consultation on the proposal to amalgamate Ysgol Pen-y-Bryn and Ysgol Creg Glas into one special school, and to build and locate the new school on its new site. That the anticipated date at the time of consultation was April 2028. And again, this one we're expecting to go out to tender. When I say tender, just to clarify there, it'll be the stage 1 contract that we'll be tendering, where we get the early contractor engagement, the contractor on board, the contractor's design team. So we work collaboratively then to reach stage 2 and the construction phase. The former Daniel James site demolition. Following the September 2023 Cabinet report, we submitted and have had approved a business justification case for the demolition of the buildings on the former Daniel James site, and work is now underway to undertake the pre-construction phase site investigations and surveys. Ecology assessments are currently in progress, and once the full outcome of those are known, that will then inform the likely programme for that demolition. 2 projects that we haven't progressed at this stage that remain in the form in Band B are the new build Welsh Medium Primary School in the Lucker Kingsbridge area. That is linked to the strategic development site B. So that is dependent upon the developer contributions and the progression of that strategic development site. And St Joseph's Cathedral Primary School, and one of the reasons for the delay there has been examining options for that school, but also resolving issues in terms of the 15% contribution. So Band B ends officially, or has ended officially, on the 31st of March 2024, and councils have been required to submit a new strategic outline programme, and that's a rolling programme. Band A and Band B have been quite challenging insofar as we have a programme envelope that we work within, so they're quite rigid and inflexible, and obviously inevitably what things look like when a strategic outline programme is submitted to Welsh Government, is approved by our Cabinet in principle, is very different to what it looks like 3, 4 and 5 years down the line, because obviously we've experienced inflation, external factors that we may not be able to anticipate, objectives and scope all evolves during that period. So Welsh Government are moving to a rolling programme, so it's not a rigid programme envelope, but it is a 9-year programme, effectively in 3 waves. So the first wave, years 1 to 3, is in fact broadly what was in our Band B, because those are projects that are currently in delivery. The second wave are projects that we think that we can take forward. We can start to put resources to them as we start to deliver the first wave, and then wave 3 is more aspirational. That was considered by Cabinet in February of this year. Obviously it's a high level, it's a strategic outline programme, and here we are, this is what Cabinet agreed to in February. So obviously reaffirming the key aims and focus of the strategic outline programme previously supported by Welsh Government. The aims and objectives, they're largely the same, and they have largely been the same for the last 10 years. They're just sort of tweaks reflecting policy and strategic development. Cabinet endorsed the proposed capital investment priorities and the proposed funding strategy, and we did submit that strategic outline programme then on the 26th of March. That has been considered by Welsh Government's business case scrutiny group, and we have received the usual, not necessarily the same questions, but following that we usually receive questions and clarifications before that goes on to the investment panel and finally the Minister for approval. The total estimated cost of the submission was just under 417 million, but excluding net zero carbon, 383 million. The key thing, the point there being, is that there is an allowance above and beyond the standard intervention rates that I talked about. So, for example, for a mainstream school, that's 65%. There is a requirement to deliver net zero carbon. The Welsh Government will pay 100% of the costs to deliver net zero carbon up to a certain cap, and that cap is based on what they think that realistically those costs are. So of that, that total 305 million broadly is Welsh Government funding, and then the local funding is a mix of voluntary aided and Section 106 funding, as well as, of course, Swansea Council funding. Key point there, the last bullet point, it is obviously a strategic outline programme, and any capital allocation is subject to final approval, the final approval of Swansea Cabinet and Welsh Government, and ultimately the Minister and contract award. Programme risks and issues, nothing new here. They're the same ones: capacity and resilience within the council. That's an ongoing issue. There are peaks and troughs there, I think, in issues that we experience with that. And obviously a key task of some of the project managers in my team is obviously to try and mitigate those risks and work closely with other areas of the council so that we can plan effectively resourcing. Capacity and resilience outside the authority. Our programme is and continues to be ambitious, and obviously we're dependent upon the support and resources of sometimes consultant teams and specialists, like I gave you the example in the case of Gowerton. We've got a specialist consultant looking at the net zero carbon options for A block, but also contractors. I mean, sometimes we have a very poor return from contractors when we go out to tender. Obviously, we have got funding risks. We don't know what's around the corner, but obviously we've worked closely with the Director of Finance, and obviously we've got the our strategy contained in our strategic outline programme, but things do change, and there is a risk that we may have to change or adapt the programme to reflect that. And then, of course, the other one is developer contributions and timing uncertainty. We have secured Section 106 contributions, or we have secured Section 106 agreements, but of course we are not in control of the timing of those developments. And so we just have to monitor and manage and be prepared for that. Just to touch on some of the other projects outside the main programme, but funded through the Sustainable Communities for Learning. We've got universal free school meals. We had an original budget allocation of 4.8 million, plus around about 3 million for Town Hill Primary School. We have 70 of 80 primary schools we've now completed in terms of ensuring those kitchens and dining facilities are ready and able to deliver universal free school meals. We have got 2 remaining schools, Havard and Craigvelin, where there is still some work outstanding. But we also have 5 major projects, which one of which is Town Hill, that has a total of 3.2 million. And another 4 that have a share from that budget allocation of 4.8 million. We have actually gone out to tender for one of those projects now, for the construction phase work, and we are working towards going out to tender for the remaining 4 during the course of this year. We've had a number of smaller grants which are quite challenging to manage. I think I've probably said this before, because they quite often tend to come late in the day, and then we have it's time limited in terms of when we can spend that funding, and quite often we've ended up with quite a large number of smaller projects, but each of those require quite significant time and resource to deliver. So community focused schools, we had 1.4 million. We've completed £800,000 worth of work across 8 schools, and we've got another 600,000 in progress across 7 schools. We submitted, Welsh Government changed the approach for the next tranche of community focused schools funding, which was helpful. And we submitted an expression of interest and had approved the funding that you can see I've listed there in the PowerPoint. I'll just skip over Bryn Tawy for a second, but we secured an additional 250,000 for Town Hill. 435 contributed towards Alpha 3G pitch. It had various small school projects across 3 schools, 500,000, and then Dylan Thomas a 225,000 allocation for that. Alpha is complete. Town Hill obviously is tied in with Universal Free School Meals project, so that's a work in progress, as are the 3 smaller school projects, and we are working with Dylan Thomas School to hopefully secure the delivery of its projects before the end of this financial year. Bryn Towie was we had to submit a separate business justification then for Bryn Towie because the project was 1.2 million. And that project was aligned to cultural services plans for Mynydd Newydd and a 3G pitch there, but also the wider strategy for Bryn Towie linked to the main Sustainable Communities for Learning investment. That business justification was approved, although it took some time because there was quite a lot of dialogue around active travel. We are now working with Welsh Government to ensure that we can progress with that project because of there are greater funding constraints in terms of when spend must occur than was previously the case at the moment, and the protracted deliberations over that business justification case impacted the timescales for that project. And this is just Kevin Hengoyd, the new barn, which has very recently been completed. That was delivered through a community hub funding that was launched quite a few years ago now. It's been an extremely complex project with lots of challenges and issues. We've delivered that new indoor pitch, a 5-a-side pitch, fitness suite and studio, cafe and flexible spaces. It's available for use by the school during the day, the barn, the indoor pitch, and it's also available for use by the leisure centre, local agencies and the wider community, including through the Football Foundation. So I won't go through it, but you can see we had also a lot of sort of financial contributors to that project. So it was certainly complex. The leisure centre opened, the leisure centre in Barn opened on the 25th of March 2024. We were also able, through the community focused schools funding, able to assign 490,000 to the former leisure centre areas within the school to create a community family engagement centre effectively. And there are some more minor additional works that are going on at the moment in the school in some of those residual areas that are due for completion next week. Additional learning needs, again, another smaller or two pots of funding for additional learning needs. As before, challenging because they come in mid-year. We have to spend them by the end of the financial year. We have managed to work with Welsh Government so that we've been able to, for want of a better word, juggle some of the spends that we have been able to ensure that we haven't lost it and are able to target that spend where it's most needed. So for the 2022-23 funding, that supported ALN equipment, social communication across all schools. So all schools received an allocation for social communication needs that they were able to manage themselves. There was some specific targeted SEBD, social and emotional behaviour provision at Clwyd and Clays primary schools, and also there's been support for the SDF pilot across 4 schools. In 2023-24, similarly, there was support for ALN equipment and also the ALN home to school transport pilot, which is focusing on improving the experience for our pupils but also should deliver revenue savings, inclusive improvements at Maesderu, and further projects for the pilot specialist teaching facilities. Childcare and early years capital programme, which we in education are not managing. That's managed from within social services, but it comes through the Sustainable Communities for Learning funding. 2022-23, there was just over 28,000 of investment across 8 Flying Start school-based settings, and just under 30,000 across 7 wraparound and after-school clubs. And this financial year, 70,000 across 8 Flying Start school-based settings and just under 28 across 5 wraparound after-school clubs. In the current wave of funding for 2024-25, a business case has been submitted to Welsh Government, which has been approved for 8 school-based Flying Starts totalling around 247,000. Includes some remodelling at Place Flying Start to create more spaces at 65,000, and improvements to Males After Schools Club 45,500, and a further 66,000 for Oystermouth. An expression of interest has been submitted, and there's a further shopping list there, but there's more of a work in progress there, looking at Welsh medium provision, Clwyd and Dalygwraig primary schools, Dunford Primary School, and childcare infrastructure improvements. Capital maintenance. So just to highlight this, since 2012, there's been work on more than 89 schools with a total spend of 22.7 million. That's up to 29 in the Band A period. And then since the start of the Band B period, maintenance across 63 schools with a total spend of 14 million. Since 2022 to the end of March 2024, just over 10 million has been spent across 68 schools. The 24-25 allocation of local capital maintenance is 3.2 million. In previous years, or recent previous years, we have benefited from a fairly significant Welsh Government capital maintenance grant, which has effectively almost doubled what we've been able to invest in our schools for maintenance. This year, that has only been £500,000, so that's obviously significantly impacted what we're able to do this financial year in terms of capital maintenance across the schools. So I think that's something to watch. I mean, it has been a huge benefit over the last few years in terms of what we've been able to do and the progress that we've been able to make. But I think we would hope that we'll see that again in future years. And then finally, I think almost finally, I'm nearly at the end, yes I am. LDP strategic sites, mentioned that earlier in terms of the risks, because we aren't in control of the timeline of these. But a number of strategic master plans show a new school build in the sites. There are some others where it's not actually shown as a new school build, it will be a developer contribution. We have got signed Section 106 agreements in 3 strategic sites. Garden Village, which is strategic site B, for the provision of a 2.5 form entry primary school with a contribution of 5.5 million from the developer. Obviously 5.5 million is not enough to deliver a 2.5 form entry primary school. That 5.5 million would form our local contribution, and obviously that's that along with the other projects, the aim would be they will be included in the programme, so that we then secure additional funding from Welsh Government to top up it effectively so we can deliver. Penllygare, we've got strategic site C, which again is a 2.5 form entry primary school with a developer contribution of 9 million. And then strategic site D, Kevin Gavelak, which is in fact sort of next door to the former Daniel James site, a provision of a 2.5 form-entry primary school. That as yet, it's not yet determined whether that would be delivered by the developer or the developer would provide us with contributions for us to build. So that's a to be confirmed. And then a number of other sites that we've got that we don't yet have signed Section 106 agreements for. We've got one in Pontydilais, which is proposing a 2 form-entry primary school and a 3 form-entry site. Pantlasai, Morriston, Site E, again looking potentially at a 2 form-entry primary school there. And then strategic site 8, which is the Wenarloyd area, where we have actually received planning applications or pre-apps for 2 parcels of land already on that strategic site. So sorry, there was quite a lot of information there, so I sort of rattled through it very quickly, but happy to take questions.
Great, thanks, Louise, for that detailed report. Before we go on to questions, I will declare an interest because you mentioned Bishopston Comprehensive School earlier, which I'm a governor, so I will fill a declaration form in there.
Can I also declare an interest for Gowerton Comprehensive School? I'm a governor there.
Sue was saying about Gowerton Comp.
I'm not a member of the committee, but I am chair of governors in YGG Pontypridd, and that was named. Well, it wasn't named, but it was alluded to.
If you're local authority governors, then you don't need to declare. It's only if you're another type of governor, because you've got a blanket thing from Council Meeting 4. So if you're another type of governor other than a local authority governor, then you'll need to declare it.
Great, thanks for the clarification. I can see a hand up, a couple of hands up. Shall I look at? I can. Angela O'Connor, Councillor Angela O'Connor. Angela.
Hi, sorry. Initially, it was to declare an interest as a governor of Oystermouth, but also to declare an interest as, do I need to declare an interest as a parent to children of a school that was mentioned?
On that, but Michelle will send you the necessary paperwork, and it was Councillor Francesca O'Brien.
I was the same chair as Angela. I've got children that were mentioned, not children, but I've got children that attend one of the schools that was mentioned. So if Michelle can send me a form, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Right, any questions? Councillor Sandra Joy.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for that. It was a huge amount of information to try and absorb. My question is going to be quite clumsy, I think, based on the fact my lack of knowledge, but I'm focusing on what's happening with the Bishop Vaughan move. I just wonder who owns the current site that they're on, why they're moving from that site to the Daniel James site, and how the funding is going to work interacting with the diocese, bearing in mind that they're voluntary aided and so on.
Okay, who's going to take that? Louise or?
Yeah, I just wondered if Councillor Smith wanted to say something, but
No,
happy.
do you want to kick off, Louise, on the technical aspects, and then I'll come back on the political aspects if there are any.
Yeah, so the obviously we own the former Daniel James site, and the diocese own the Bishop Vaughan Catholic School site, and the intention is, which was outlined in the report to Cabinet in February of this year, that there would effectively be, and the actual detailed process we don't actually know yet. We're working with estates and legal, or we will be working with legal, and the diocese will have a specialist lawyer on board on their side who will have that specific experience around the charity clauses in the title for the Bishop Vaughan former Catholic school site. But the intention in effect will be the diocese would take ownership of part of the former Daniel James site. We effectively would take ownership of the Bishop Vaughan site, and then the proceeds from the sale of the Bishop Vaughan site would then be used to support the 15% contribution for the new build for Bishop Vaughan Catholic School. In terms of why has that been chosen as an option, all sorts of options have been explored. I mean, there are a number of things to be considered. Obviously, one, what the intentions are for the former Daniel James site, and what the future use of that is. But in terms of Bishop Vaughan Catholic School, there are issues around its condition and its suitability. So then, as we do with every project, we do explore all of the options that are available. And until we have that the approved business cases through Welsh Government, which we have to demonstrate, obviously, that robust business case, that whatever we come up with as the preferred option is strategically and economically the most appropriate option. It's obviously not predetermined, but that is the direction of travel that we're in at the moment. And obviously we've got work in progress developing and investigating that at this point in time.
Okay, great, fine, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Clarification really for Gowerton Comprehensive School. The plans are still being put together because it's an old school. Is that what was indicated?
So the plans, as it were, are being put together up until the point that we reach full business case stage. It's a very iterative process. So the point that we're at the moment for Gowerton is there has been an awful lot of work that has taken place in terms of looking at the strategic master planning for the site. I think originally our initial scope at the time that we submitted and had approved our strategic outline programme for Band B, when Gowerton featured in that, what we were looking at was a new build to replace the substandard demountables on the site.
Right.
So we have undertaken a lot of work, explored a lot of options. That has developed into a new build to replace the substandard demountables and B block. And the thing that we're looking at in more detail now, and things have moved on in terms of expectations for A block. So we are exploring in more detail now what our options are for A block, considering net zero carbon. With a view, then we then submit, and it's the different processes all run in tandem. So we were, I think I said, considering submitting a strategic outline case to Welsh Government. We're now thinking we want to submit a joint strategic outline case and outline business case to Welsh Government. So we're doing a little bit more work looking at A block and the strategy for that. So, for example, I mean, something that obviously would be of interest and concern to the school. We've had advice in terms of what we might need to do to A block to deliver net zero carbon. We'd have to be looking at offsetting carbon elsewhere as well. But obviously a key thing is, what are the implications in terms of revenue costs and maintenance and energy costs for the schools? There's a little bit more detail we need to learn about that, because it's an old existing building. Once we get to the point that we're confident with the strategy and what we think is the preferred way forward, we will then submit that outline business case to Welsh Government. We're planning on doing that at this point in time. We're thinking that would be in the early autumn. And what we would aim to do then is, at the same time, go out to tender for the stage 1 contractor appointment. And then once we appoint that stage 1 contractor, that stage 1 contractor and its design team will work with us and the school then to develop the project to full business case stage, REBA stage 3 and 4, so we can then reach the construction phase.
Thank you, Louise. Can I just come back to you? Accessibility into Block A, is that being considered as well?
Accessibility is a key objective for the project. I don't think, obviously, the devil will be in the detail in terms of what exactly will be fully accessible. I don't think we can ever make the whole of the Gowerton site and A block fully accessible. I think that's quite unlikely. But what we will do is make sure that the school is fully accessible, in the sense that you could have any pupil that could go there and access all parts of the curriculum or all the different facilities, and they could move around the site appropriately.
Thank you, Louise.
Great. Any other questions, Sandra?
Sorry, I just want to bounce back to the Bishop Vaughan. My understanding from what you'd said was that the diocese and the council effectively would then take ownership of continue, and the diocese would come in on the Daniel James side, and that the council would be taking ownership of the Bishop Vaughan site. Now, first of all, I'm not sure if I've got that right, but if I have, I'm still wondering what the reasoning is behind that.
Okay.
Well, I think there was an options appraisal of how to deliver a new school for to replace the current Bishop Vaughan school, and I think that the various options were looked at, and I think it's fair to say that was the most cost-effective option.
Right. So that's based on, as I say, because obviously the Bishop Vaughan site could have been developed, but you're saying it was cheaper to do it, in a sense, more cost effective to do it on the Daniel James site than the Bishop Vaughan site.
I think in the round, yes, because I know we're looking at redeveloping the Daniel James site. There's significant demolition costs associated with redeveloping that site, and I think we're going to look at the whole of the vision for that part of Swansea.
And that leads me to the next question then, is has anyone got the plans or got any ideas what's going to happen to what would be then the old Bishop Vaughan site?
Well, actually, we're in early days yet, but I mean, I wouldn't expect there to be secondary school on that site. Obviously, it's a school that, when you look at the condition there, I think it is a school that needs replacing. I think if we can't, there's only so much you can do to improve existing facilities, and I think that's been the conclusion of the cabinet, looking at the evidence in relation to that school. If anyone wants to come in, and then I can come back at the end, perhaps.
Good. Helen, you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Just to supplement what the Cabinet member said in terms of return on investment. So the intervention rate is 85% from Welsh Government, and that would allow us then to demolish the site at Daniel James at a cost of circa £6 million. When we started to look at this, the cost was about £3 million. So those escalating costs, we feel it would be a good return on investment to use that 85% intervention rate from Welsh Government to knock something down. But obviously, in terms of why Bishop Vaughan, in terms of which school to prioritise in terms of investment, we know that the business continuity failure risk at this school is high. So it might have a condition kind of survey that's fairly good. It looks good on paper, probably because it's had a new roof in part of that school premises. But there is a block there that is housing at least 27 classes, and that block really could be at risk of business continuity failure. So we've got to be very careful in addressing the worst first, and that's the principle that we've adopted in terms of investment prioritisation.
Great, fine, thanks. Any other questions? No, can't see any hands up. So
if I could come in at the end,
certainly,
if the technical questions have been dealt with. But can I thank Louise and her team for the presentation this afternoon? And I think the command of detail that Louise has shown this afternoon, it reflects the way she's been leading this work and helping to take things forward. I know when I ask Louise a question, I won't always get the answer I want, but I get the answer that I need to know. And I think it is, the presentation was a tribute to her and to the team. Plus, looking more broadly, we touched on the MIM model. We did look at that. We looked at it initially, and then when we had the revised figures, well, it became clear to us that that model was going to be a more expensive model than the traditional model. And I think that's led us to revise the way some of this program will be funded. And I think if we look at what's happening over the border in England with PFI, there are lessons to be learned from PFI. I'm not saying that it's not something, but you need to be with your eyes open going into any form of funding arrangement. And certainly at the moment, we would not be looking towards the MIM model as delivering any of the things that we'd want in Swansea.
Okay, great, fine. Thank you, Robert, and certainly thank you, Louise. Yes, it was a very detailed report, and so really thanks for all the work that you put into preparing that. The next item on the agenda is the Swansea Skills Partnership, and again we have Robert and Helen with us, but welcome to David Bowden as well, who I think you're going to come in first, are you? Oh, it's going to be Helen first. There we are.
Yes, just to introduce the report in terms of Dave as our strategic skills coordinator's involvement. He's authored this report, and he's been along the journey really in terms of the Swansea Skills Partnership since its inception in 2018. And I think 2023 was a key marker really in terms of how we've adapted and changed and reset ourselves. So I think it's really important that Dave highlights some of those key changes in terms of how the partnership has evolved and where we're heading to next, and then happy to take any questions at the end.
Great, thank you, David. Over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, Helen. Yeah, so a bit of an update really on the Swansea Skills Partnership, following previous updates that I think we've had last year and the year before as well. As a reminder, the Swansea Skills Partnership, as Helen's just mentioned, began from a recommendation to 2018. It comprises of senior representatives from a range of different organisations across Swansea, with the aim of designing destinations for learners by strengthening the links between the curriculum and future occupations in Swansea and beyond. And as Helen's just alluded to, at the end of 2022-2023 academic year, some of our previous work streams were concluded and reported on in that last meeting, and there are some updates in the last scrutiny report on those work streams that were concluded during that time. During that meeting, then partners of the Skills Partnership were tasked with suggesting new work streams for 2023-2024, which would take us then for the next 5-year period. And then following those suggestions, a new streamlined membership was put in place. We had revised terms of reference, which are included as an appendix to the report here, and 3 strategic priorities would be our focus for the next 5-year period. The partners around the table with Swansea Skills Partnership are local authority representatives from the Education Directorate and Economic Regeneration, as well as senior representatives from Gower College, Swansea University, University of Wales, Trinity St David's, Careers Wales, and we've got school representatives as well, head teacher representatives from schools. Our 3 strategic priorities that were identified by partners that we've taken forward are to develop stronger collaborative partnerships with employers. Secondly, to develop collaborative partnerships to explore the delivery of 14 to 16 vocational programmes from a place and provision perspective. And thirdly, to establish collaborative partnerships to develop and deliver a wider range of post-16 programmes. And one of our key principles behind the whole Swansea Skills Partnerships is collaboration and working together and making the best use really in Swansea of the expertise that we have, the facilities, the equipment, the locations that we have locally, and how that connects and links into our regional priority areas in terms of the workforce, businesses and industry. So I think what might be a useful idea with this update is to go through each of the work streams to show the progress that we've made during this academic year and where we're at along that journey as well. So the first work stream is to develop stronger collaborative partnerships with employers. And I know that during previous meetings, that is sometimes points that has been raised, is our links and our connections with employers and how do we engage with them. So that's one of our clear subgroups that we have within the structure. There are a group from the various partners who meet together 3 times a year, and during that time they report back to the skills partnerships on where they are. So we want all learners in Swansea to understand the sort of jobs and the industries that are growing in Swansea and the surrounding area, and we want to ensure that they can explore what is right for them. And we're really key, we really understand that the links between the curriculum and the world of work can be made really clear through this particular work stream. Now, first, one of the things we did with this work stream is we wanted to recognise the volume and the quality work that is carried out by some of our partners. So Careers Wales, the Regional Learning and Skills Partnership, Gower College and our universities play an integral and vital part in those links with employers. And so one of the first things that we did within that work stream is to audit all of our schools, our secondary schools, in the first instance, to see where they were at in terms of their engagement level with employers and how much support that employers are giving them. That has proved to be, a very, very fruitful exercise. Because it's actually shown us that the range of opportunities and levels of engagements with business and with industry is very strong, in fact. And our relationship with Careers Wales, which we feel is very integral to supporting this element of the work, has been strengthened more and more over time, so that not only do our careers advisors within schools play an important role, but also representatives from Careers Wales to support careers and work-related experiences as an integral part of Curriculum for Wales. And as well as that, another arm of Careers Wales is the business engagement advisors, which we affectionately call the Bs within education. So the Bs work across Swansea schools and they make those vital links with businesses and industry. And part of one of our meetings where we met as a subgroup was to raise awareness of what the Bs were doing with our schools, to signpost other schools to make full advantage of the opportunities that are available to them, and to develop and strengthen that work where we need to. And as an example of that, so I've got two quick examples that wasn't in the report that was written, was the links with Kia Construction and Brintawi School. So they've collaborated on a project called The Big Build. Pupils have taken part in the construction of an outdoor learning space where all labour and material costs were covered by Kia. And pupils are able to speak to Kia Construction to help them with that build, and employers for different elements of the roles within the construction industry. So our young people in Brintawi, for example, have been able to speak to a site manager, a surveyor, carpenter, a labourer, and make those real world links between what they're learning in the classroom with the opportunities within the world of work in the construction industry, and not just building, but the wider construction opportunities for them as well. So that was kind of, we could call that a mini work experience opportunity for some of those learners who were able to do that on site. And the other example as well, which links to what Louise was talking about, there was the links between Morganstone and the Kevin Hengoyd site, where the 3G pitch and the barn construction has worked very well with our young people who have had assemblies, been introduced to apprentices and opportunities through the construction of that. Girls into construction around carousel events. They've had site tours and option talks in year 9 as well to link the construction that's gone on site with what's happening through the company Morganstone. So we're incredibly pleased with the work that's already happening by bringing our partners around the table and signposting and showcasing what is already happening. What we are hoping to do with this particular work stream is to develop an online platform that already exists. So we already have My Choice, which signposts young people to post-16 options and progression routes. We'd like to develop that further by signposting and showcasing how schools can work with businesses so that we will work towards, in collaboration with Careers Wales and the Regional Learning Skills Partnership, developing a pledge that businesses and industry will make through the website and through the web platform with schools to be able to access these opportunities and to have, if you like, a database or a collection of options or offers that schools can engage with either directly or through Careers Wales themselves. And then perhaps a little side note as well, we've had very good engagement from Gower College, Swansea, and the University of Wales, Trinity St David's and Swansea University with this piece of work. Gower College have utilised its employer boards. So there is an event coming up for schools to work alongside Microsoft and the opportunities within the digital industry there. Swansea University and Trinity St David's have both taken the opportunity to introduce young people to pathways within digital healthcare and engineering and construction as well. So that's where we're at with our first work stream. Perhaps would you like me to pause there to take any questions on that one before we go on to our next 2 work streams?
There we go. Thank you, David. Yeah. Any questions so far? Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed on the report you say that Gower College now have got a green hub.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
tremendous. Is there any other areas that you've encouraged to put on courses
Yeah,
in the colleges or universities?
absolutely. That's part of the second work stream that I'll talk about with the vocational qualification. No problem at all with the vocational qualifications. But yeah, the Green Hub is has been developed by Gower College. They're opening and that officially next week, but they've already started using that facility. It's a repurposed building on the old Hill House Hospital site that they use. And they're using that to introduce young people from all our schools. We've got over 30 different classes from schools that are engaging with that at the moment through construction and engineering and so on as well. So we've got that site there within Gower College.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Robert.
Yeah, if I could just come in on that, because I think what Dave has shown us this afternoon is the value of this partnership in making those connections, bringing people together. That's what the committee, because I was chair of the committee that recommended, and I think you, Chair, were on the committee as well, that recommended setting this body up. And I think that this is one of the things we envisaged, that it would help to bring people together. And we talked about work experience earlier. You know, this employer engagement, it'll always be a developmental process, we know that, but it's making those links and building on the links that individual schools and that Gower College has with local employers, so that our youngsters are given that introduction to the world of work and the range of opportunities that exist there. We've heard a lot about construction. Well, look at the range of opportunities within construction. These are worthwhile jobs, that they're careers that take you a long way, and I think that's it's important that we build on those, just as one example, and I think that Dave can give many more.
Right, thank you. Yeah, could I say, yeah, I like as Councillor Robert Smith said, we were at the birth of the Swansea Skills Partnership, because it was ideas that we developed coming forward, and I think that is important that you've got those links. The only thing, and I think I said it when it was actually at the PDC when we looked at it when it came back in about a year, and that is that we need. We've got links with business, but when we look at membership and partners, half of those should be business and people in industry, because they are the ones that create the real jobs. And we've got really all those are public sector, and we really need the real people who create the jobs, who will come up with those ideas. And I think all the work is tremendous, and the work you've done, I have to say, is exemplary. But we are missing that trick by not having those business people in the driving seat with us. And I think that was something we said a year ago, a year into its operation, and it was totally cross-party, the comments. And if we went back to look at the record there, that was things, and a number of colleagues from the Labour Party also said the same thing at that point, and we still haven't got there. And I think that is what it really good, and all those links that we're doing and getting those businesses involved, but they should be, at least half of those people should be in the driving seat. And no question about, and that was the idea of it as well, because the whole thing is, when we go out to school, it's important that we link with business. We shouldn't second guess what those businesses want. And we want to look at, as you mentioned, IT. Care are great, but we need IT. We need people. I think I mentioned at the time there was a group in Swansea had set up a company dealing with animation. They'd had a huge grant from America to work on this. And there are things like that we're missing out on. I was speaking to somebody the other day in their 20s. He's earning an eye-watering sum of money. He wouldn't want to be an MP or a Senate member. He would be taking a cut in salary, and he's in his early 20s. And literally, those are the sort of people we need to get to inspire, school children. But that is the one failing of the first bit, that we haven't got those business people. You forget me. Any other question? Helen, yes.
I have to challenge back on that, because I wouldn't describe it as a failing. I think we have asked consistently for sectors to be nominated. So if there are any sectors that you think should be represented as members of that partnership, more than welcome to receive those nominations. And we've consistently asked for those. So we'd welcome any nominations you've got.
If you'd let me know who you've gone out to, that would be great, and we can look to see. And all of us, it's for all of us to do. But the work that it's doing to get those links and to make sure you're bringing those things together, which was really, really important, and you're doing. And it's not easy. It to pull all those threads together is not easy, and you're doing, and it'll put us ahead in Swansea than other areas. But just that one thing we need to just do a little bit better.
And I think what I would emphasize is we are absolutely open to employer organizations, whether they're in the public sector or the private sector, and it certainly would welcome private sector involvement. So I think it's getting that engagement is going to be the crucial bit.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Can't see any hands up. Sorry, David. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, thank you. So that's the first work stream. The second work stream then is to develop collaborative partnerships to explore the delivery of 14 to 16 vocational programmes from a place and a provision perspective. So our offer of vocational qualifications in Swansea, we want to really encourage collaboration, working with key partners and key stakeholders. And what we're really doing and what we're looking at is those vocational qualifications that 14 to 16-year-olds can access. Because we understand there's another suite of qualifications that learners in post-compulsory education can access. We're looking at the 14 to 16 qualification offers and options. And what we want to really look at really is the local expertise, the facilities, the equipment that we have across the city, and encourage that smooth progression into post-compulsory education and training as well. Now we're at a key and a crucial part time, where a new suite of vocational qualifications are being prepared and will be introduced in 2027 to replace what we currently have. So currently, there are probably over 100 different vocational qualifications that schools and other providers can access to be delivered to 14 to 16-year-olds from the WJC, but also from Pearson's EdExcel, City and Guilds, and so on. There are lots of other exam boards. That is going to be streamlined so that there will be 13 vocational subjects that are offered, with potentially 3 more within a suite of qualifications known as VCSEs, which you've probably heard on the news and have been reported. So from 2027, VCSEs will sit alongside GCSEs. So what we felt within this work stream was that we wanted to make sure that we were ready, supporting, ready for those changes, that we would ensure that between ourselves, through collaboration and partnership, that we could address training needs for schools and for the college, that there would be sharing of facilities where we could and where necessary and where needed, that equipment and staffing could also be used in that way. So we've started this work stream by auditing and mapping out our 14 to 16 programmes throughout Swansea. We know that Gower College Swansea is used extensively with our schools programme, and there are over, I think I mentioned it earlier, over 30 different classes that Gower College actually deliver to within our school provision. And there's also some provision as well from Inspire Training, our training provider locally, and MPTC as well, the Military Preparation and Training College, offer a small number of courses as well. Part of that work stream as well, we've also looked at ESTIN reports that's from 2023 and 2024 from our secondary schools, and they do highlight the strength actually of school curricula and the offer of the broad range of academic and vocational courses that are currently being offered to 14 to 16-year-olds. So we feel we're in a particularly strong position in terms of the curriculum offer that schools have and the broad range of academic and vocational options. And like I said, what we want to do within this work stream is be ahead of the game really, and prepare and support schools and colleges and other providers with the new set of VCSEs to be delivered from 2027. Part of that then is some of our place and provision where this is going to be delivered, and where are some of that vocational provision delivery, and overcoming and perhaps teasing out some of the challenges of things like transport costs, internal staffing issues, timetabling, etc. So that subgroup and that partnership group around the table can really focus on those issues and thrash them out together and sort out and look at perhaps ways forward. So we've already invited Qualifications Wales to deliver to our deputy heads. They've delivered twice, once looking at to tell our deputy heads and our head teachers as well. Sorry, I chair the deputy heads network, so I'm more focused on that one, with the new GCSEs from 2025 and also the wider qualifications for the VCSEs and the skills suite which are coming in 2027. And then to that end, we're not stopping what we're doing and just waiting until 2027. We've also got current cohorts to oversee and to look at the moment, and part of that is the Green Hub that we've just mentioned as well. That's opened in Gower College, very exciting new development focusing on landscaping, horticulture and eco-construction, and that complements as well some of the other facilities that Gower College have in terms of motor vehicle workshop and engineering workshop, hair salon, catering facilities, etc., which also complement some of the vocational facilities that are available within our school infrastructure as well and school structure. So looking at the big picture really of where the provision is, are there any gaps in terms of facilities, expertise, that sort of thing, and where we can match those together. So the intention is then that when we look at any new buildings or new facilities or new ways of working. As we look ahead to 2027, we want to look at what exists and want to consider a whole citywide offer, so that we are complementing each other on the provisions that are available across the city, avoiding duplication where possible, and just looking at perhaps where that provision is in terms of geography and across the city. So that's been a very exciting work stream that's had a lot of focus, and currently just absorbing and taking in all that information that's coming from a very high level from national changes, and as time progresses then we'll be able to implement that and to work that into our school infrastructure working alongside the college. So that's work stream 2. I can pause there if you want to. Or
okay, great. Any questions? But well done, because I think vocational work is really important. And I certainly on the PDC, when that was in existence, we talked about that at length, actually, because not everybody wants an academic subject. But, you know, vocational work is so important. And for that work to be going on is really important for, you know, young people through Swansea and throughout their lives. So, you know, really well done on that.
Again, I think what David described is taking forward what the PDC emphasised, and that this isn't something post-16. We want these opportunities 14 to 16 as well as post-16, and that's going to be crucial moving forward.
Fantastic. And then the third work stream of the Swansea Skills Partnership is to establish collaborative partnerships to develop and deliver a wider range of high quality post-16 programmes. So what we want to do within this work stream is to explore a wider range of post-16 provision for young people, to make sure that all post-16 learners are able to access worthwhile qualifications and have the tools to progress onto the next level of their education and their learning journey. We've looked at partnerships that already exist. So we're very aware of the strong partnerships that exist with Goir and Bryntawy Comprehensive School with the Welsh medium post-16 provision. We're also looked at the partnership that Morriston Comprehensive have with Bishop Vaughan School currently, and how that works so that some of the provision is delivered jointly. And then there's another as and when type partnership with Alpha, Gowerton and Bishop Gore that work as and when need arises for their provision at post-16. What we're particularly interested in is looking at online models of delivery and whether there's the potential and the opportunity to explore whether we can use online and hybrid ways of teaching and provision to widen our provision at post-16. So as a group, as a working group or a working party, our starting point was to look and to unpick a post-16 learner voice survey that was completed in 2023. So that went out to our sixth forms last year. We had over 300 responses. And it really did highlight to us the strong support mechanisms that our sixth forms have, and the importance really of the relationships that schools have with their young people from year 7 and going right the way up to year 13 as well. So we were really pleased with that. We looked at as well within the survey, there were questions, were there subjects or courses or opportunities you would have liked to have had in sixth form, but you were unable to access? And unfortunately, there was no one thing that stuck out as something that we could pursue as a single subject. For example, it didn't reveal to us that, say, French was an opportunity that we needed to be particularly pursue from the survey. Yet as a working group of sixth form leads and working and talking together, we know that there are courses and there are subjects that schools might find it difficult to develop on their own because of recruiting numbers, being so small because of the challenges and demands on the curriculum means that perhaps we need to look at alternative or creative ways of widening our provision. We discussed the challenges of working across 7 sixth form partnership, and we concluded really as a group that those challenges were far too great in terms of working with shared timetables, shared staffing, transport costs, etc. So we have settled on looking at and exploring an online model of delivery, perhaps using the expertise that was gained from COVID and during that time as well. So we've moved quite rapidly with our conversations and discussions around an online model. For September 2024, we are offering 4 A-level options to all sixth forms across Swansea and the college if they wish to be invested in this as well. Those options are further maths, classics, French and Welsh. We are moving forward with an after-school online delivery model for 3 of those options. That's maths, classics and French. And with Welsh, which Alpha will be delivering, we are looking at an option where Welsh will be taught within the classroom, within the timetable, and schools, if they are available, will be able to participate in that lesson. And if they're not, they'll be able to access recorded asynchronous material to support their studies with that. We are very much supported by Welsh Government's e-Ysgol organisation. As a Welsh Government organisation that supports online delivery of subjects. And we understand that there are a new set of challenges that come with online delivery in terms of recruiting students, staff engagement, technology, exam entries, etc. But we're very much exploring and on top and looking at that. So we're at a point now during the year where we are waiting to see application processes and the numbers recruited from those schools. And then we will look together to put together an MOU, a memo of understanding, between different partners to ensure that that works out well. So we're at the early stages of exploring online models of delivery to expand the subject choice that is available to young people. But it's a very much exploratory trial stage, piloting, and we've very much utilised within the partnership the collaboration and the working together and those underlying principles that we've developed over the last 5 years to bring partners around the table to have these very open and transparent conversation discussions about the curriculum offer that we have within post-16.
Great.
That's where we're at with that.
Any questions? What I would say, it is exciting and it really provides new opportunities, because if you look at us, I tell you, a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, we wouldn't have been able to have a hybrid meeting, and some of us at home and some here. We've learned that, and why not use that for people, post 16 as well? A real opportunity to bring them together. And I'm sure if I can pick up some of that stuff, I'm pretty sure they can. And there's a real opportunity.
I remember that, about 10 years ago, perhaps more, there was talk of bringing in video conferencing in schools to help, and it was mainly for post-16 delivery. Well, the technology's moved on since then, and I think to be positive, we learned a lot in COVID about how to deliver things online, but one of the key lessons is that doesn't remove the need for support within the homeschool as well, and it's getting that balance right. But it's there. We need to harness the technology and look at the opportunities, but make sure that that's supported properly.
I would just add there, 10 years ago, we were actually looking into video conferencing and so on. We even had the timetable that the joint 7 sixth forms bussed their kids round on Wednesday afternoons and things to each other's schools to share subjects. And this is so much better and so much further on than you know, that was. And as I say, is it's thanks to the fact that we've got the teams, the video conferencing, that those young people can access the support and the care from their home school, but still get into the minority subjects or the different subjects that they really want to access, but they've still got that care from their home school.
I think you'll probably remember the Wales video conferencing network.
Yes.
And all of them look the same. They
Yeah.
all have the same grey curtains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could I ask James, Councillor James McGetra? James.
Hi, sorry, I might have to make an apology at first. I'm actually an employee of Swansea University and I teach people maths, so possibly should have declared that as an interest earlier because it came up quite a lot in the verbal report, so apologies. So please take my verbal declaration of interest there, and if Michelle, you could send me the paperwork, that would be appreciated. But I'm not involved, obviously, with any of this program, so I don't believe that there'll be any prejudicial aspect to it. So I did just looking at the minority subjects there. I mean, just to comment, it's sad to see that Welsh is in there. It's also sad to see that, for me, it's very sad to see that further maths is in there as well, as it's a subject that underpins so much of the modern economy in terms of computational modelling of things like climate, all the models that they make around the economy and things like that as well, and the semiconductor industry, which South Wales obviously has a very strong background in, is chock full of engineers and physicists. So it's just really to sort of understand, is this going forward as a trial with a view to sort of see how student numbers are, really try to understand which of these subjects you can get some traction with, and just for me, because I'm not in the school setting, when you say minority, how small is minority? Is this maybe 1 or 2 sixth forms might be offering it, or maybe only Gower College offers these sorts of subjects?
Yeah, the minority would be probably class sizes of less than 10. Gower College pretty much offer a whole broad spectrum of different options, but some of our sixth forms just don't have the capacity to offer those subjects that are very small in terms of recruiting numbers and so on, which makes it very difficult for continuity for year in, year out to still be offering the same subject with staffing levels and so on. But what I would say is the online model works across Wales. We had a meeting with ESCOL, the Welsh Government organisation, this week. Usually it's as a response to challenges of rurality within a local authority. So a big local authority like Powys, for example, there might be difficulty of transport and getting young people across the city. We don't particularly have those. I'll say we don't particularly have those issues. I know rurality perhaps might form a small part of the challenge here. So for many cases, if a young person can't do a subject that they might want to do in the sixth form of their choice, they can simply just go to another sixth form or the college. They don't necessarily then have no choice. We do have choice across the city, but it's for those young people who really would like to and perhaps need to stay within their own sixth form. We're looking at broadening that choice for them and offering that wider range of options available to them. So I hope that answers your question in terms of minority numbers and small classes. It's probably something like less than 10, and it could be as low as sort of 5 or 6 in a class.
Yeah, I think that covers it. And then you're going to be monitoring just how these perform over time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. It sounds amazing, and it's great to see that they're getting that opportunity that they might not have got otherwise. So yeah, keep up the good work, I guess.
Sure, thanks.
Great, thanks, James. Councillor Francesca O'Brien. Francesca.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, thank you to everybody, because it's been really interesting just sitting here listening and taking it all in and to see what is on offer in Swansea. Just out of interest, I know I might be going slightly back 2 steps here, but with regards to the vocational and the training, getting the hands on, like say with Kia or Morganstone, how have our ALN students got on with that? I just out of interest, because I was probably in that bracket myself in the education system, and I know for me, I would have absolutely loved that opportunity. So have we got sort of any data, or how do we find the ALN students get on with that? Does that have like a positive impact on their sort of their mainstream education then?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have any data off the top of my head or anything at hand. I could probably find that out. But certainly that vocational provision is completely accessible to any young person with ALN additional learning needs. And there is a big project, didn't mention it as an example, but Crete Glass, for example, are accessing opportunities with transport, I do believe. I'd need to go into a bit more detail on that. And this year as well, talking with Pen y Bryn School, they are one of our only schools in Swansea to introduce work experience across the whole of their year groups as well. So I'm exploring that opportunity with them and that option as well. But the vocational provision is fully accessible to all young people, including those with ALN, and actually a lot of the time they can very much engage and thrive in that sort of environment as well, where there are practical opportunities and chance to have perhaps a more hands-on approach rather than theory within a classroom.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Suja.
Thank you. I just wondered, business management, because a lot of these youngsters may be going to try to go their own way of putting a job, a business together. So is there a line that they can look at to see what is needed to create their own businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Careers Wales have got an enterprise arm where they particularly focus on starting your own business and developing opportunities with their young people in that manner. And as well as that, it fits very well into the Welsh Back curriculum as well. So most of our secondary schools will develop some sort of start your own business, enterprise, etc. opportunities, and also offer business studies as an option within their curriculum choice from year 9 onwards as well, or year 10, year 11. So yeah, definitely.
Great. No other questions. The only thing I would say, actually, we need to be probably mindful of people who may not have access to computers and so on.
Sure.
You know, in schools they will, and we can in libraries, but there could be some people, and we don't want to deprive people of the opportunities, because they could be the very people we actually want to help. So I think we need to just be a bit mindful of that as well.
And if I could just come in on that, where I've mentioned the ESCOL a couple of times as the Welsh Government, part of what their offer is to ensure that there is that equality aspect. So they will and can provide the technology that might be needed for individuals, and also for schools as well. There were we had quite an inspiring meeting last week with their school, and some of the things they brought up I hadn't even considered, you know, but having microphones in the middle of classrooms and this sort of thing. So they're very, very helpful. It was a very inspiring meeting, but the access to technology and the equality was part of what they can offer as well.
Great.
We do have schemes where companies, public sector organizations and so on provide disused IT equipment that can still be used in schools, but I think we need to make that a lot more systemic than it is at the moment. We don't, you know, the ad hoc support is very welcome, but we need that across the whole system.
Fine, thanks. Thank you. Can I say, really, you know, in the point I did make about the business, you know, is obviously an issue, but I tell you what, this is groundbreaking stuff, and it will put us ahead, because it really is important. And thank you for the work that you do in actually bringing it all together. But it will make a difference, and is making a difference. And I think when we thought about it many years ago now, at the PDC, you know, we didn't think it was our aim and our aspiration, but you know, it's good to see it actually happening. So, but thank you. Great. All right, we move on to the next item on the agenda is the end of year review. Really, we've had quite a busy year in scrutiny, educational scrutiny. We've covered a lot of topics. We've done a few visits as well, which have been really very, very interesting, and really would like to hear any comments on what's gone well, what do you think not gone quite so well maybe, or what would you like to see in the future. One of the things that happens at the next meeting is that when the programme is sort of put together, there are some things we go back to, like the curriculum for Wales and so on. There are a range of them like that. But a lot of other things then, and we put in a number of school visits, but they are up to us where we go. So that again, but any ideas you have, they will be more for the next meeting. But any thoughts on what's gone so far over the last year? Any comments from anyone? Yes, Sandra.
Sorry, I'm hesitant because I'm sort of coming up with a negative rather than all the positives, and all the positives were visiting the schools, being involved with, so I'm almost taking that as read. The one thing that I did feel was on that occasion we met with Gowerton and they were online and we were in here basically. And I just thought if we'd gone to the trouble of connecting with the school, I would have liked to have had that opportunity to sit in the same room as them. I did feel that it was a little bit us and them, and I don't, that's quite hard to sort of to articulate. And I would have liked maybe we could have gone to them or had the opportunity to have that hybrid, but us be in the same room. And it was only, I think we got spoiled by being in places like Maesdderw and speaking to them and having a tour around. So I think that's probably, in a sense, raised my expectation a little bit.
Yeah, no, I totally take that on board, and certainly when we went to Gorsinan, a number of us, and we it's good to have a tour of the school. We did the Dylan Thomas School a number of years ago, and things have been mentioned about Dylan Thomas since, and I said no, that's not right, because I know because we went there and we saw it, and you can't beat actually having hands-on at the chalk face, actually going to the school, and I agree with you with that. But then that's something that needs to be sort of taken on board. Yeah, absolutely, because it is good and good for them too.
Can I just say that was the partnership for all the primary schools as well, so it may have been a little bit more difficult to organise that, because it was the heads from the primary schools were in that meeting, because I was in school with them.
And I do agree with you, Sue, as being we would have to make the effort to go up there, because to be fair, they'd been teaching all day by the time that meeting took place, and I do understand that. But I just felt they'd gone to all that trouble, and they had gone to a lot of trouble, and it was almost like a PowerPoint. And in reality, I think we could have engaged better.
I think with that as well, when we did the Pontedillas, when we did the Pontedillas cluster, everybody was in a different school, so they were coming on. But I think in Gowerton, they'd all arrived at the one school, which made it more difficult, and it doesn't sort of zoom in on the person speaking, so it was quite difficult. So I think that was probably it. But when we did the Pontedillas cluster, each school they were in their own setting, and they were then coming up on screen, so that made it slightly easier, if you like. But I think Gowerton had decided to come together. James. Sorry. You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The lines that get uttered so frequently, you're on mute. Yeah, I would agree with Sandra there. I think we should consider as a committee if we should be more prepared to go out when suitable. I understand sometimes it won't be, but I wouldn't have minded going up to Clydach, for instance, just to see those guys there. I think they were all in one room, for instance. think in terms of speaking of Clydach, it was nice to have that meeting with them. Obviously, that there had been considerable concerns, and it's good that it was good that was brought before scrutiny and addressed in really quite a constructive way. So I think that should go down as a bit of a success as well. Not just that the school has done well, but it was brought before the committee in a very sort of professional manner. And the only other comment I'd make, and this is kind of a tricky one, we've had I think 2 very good presentations today. It is nice when we either get a fairly solid report or a really good PowerPoint. It does help an awful lot to understand what's going on, especially with the sheer volume of information that was there. Generally they were all right, but yeah, today's were excellent, so that's good. Thank you.
Great, thanks, James. Thanks for those comments. I know the people in Clydach were very, very pleased that we met with them, and I actually know that because I was in the barber shop, and you can imagine that wasn't a very long visit, but somebody was actually there about to get a haircut, and it was one of the members of staff who'd been on that from Clydach, and they said all the staff were quite buoyed up with the points that we made and so on. So that was good. Sorry, Helen, rather than talk about my haircut, Helen.
Just picking up on the previous issue around PowerPoints, I think PowerPoints can be useful depending on the topic, but I think it's really important that members receive that PowerPoint in advance. I can't see it was in today's bundle, but I think we have done that in the past. I think that's something that we should remember in the future.
I think there was an issue around Welsh translation and getting it back in time because they've got such a big backlog that I think there was trouble getting it back, I think.
Oh, that's a shame.
That was,
It's a shame to hear that.
Yeah. So, but normally we would have that in advance.
Great, fine, thanks. Any other questions? No. The only final point on the agenda, other than to thank Michelle for all her work over the last year, and it's been tremendous, and thank you very much, and to thank you all for your contributions and everything you've done, and to the staff from the department who've come along, and to Councillor Robert Smith and to our director Helen Morgan-Rees, because they take this seriously. And I always say with both Robert and Helen, when there is an issue, we talk about we're looking at an open door, and I think that makes so much difference. And it's great that you're taking that much interest in the scrutiny side of things as well, because I'm told it doesn't happen in other councils, not in all councils, and it's good that it happens here. Next year, we put out that scrutiny meetings will start in June, and we'll start at 4:30 p.m. unless we're actually on a school visit. Okay, and other than that, could I wish you a safe journey home? And if you are home, have a nice cup of tea, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.